Hello, everybody, and welcome to CONSERVATISH episode 180. My name is Peter Feliciano. Make sure you subscribe, like this, rate this, review it, share it. And you can find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano and on Facebook and on Twitter at Rule62Peter. I'm also on Reddit at CONSERVATISH Pod, and you can support this podcast and my music. I've got new music coming out soon. Well, technically cover songs, but some 80s, some 90s. It's going to be delicious. And so make sure you find me on YouTube as well and Spotify, but my music as well is all over the place. And lastly, to support this podcast and my music, go to patreon.com/conservatish, or you can just Venmo me at Peter-Feliciano, Feliciano. Ladies and gentlemen and sirs, we have the wonderful Ada, Different Voice X, back on the show. Yay!
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
What a pleasure. Hi.
I know, it is a pleasure being around me. Isn't it wonderful? I don't know how I really should start charging you guys just to be in my presence, just humans in general.
Yeah.
But I guess because
anyway.
Right, but because I'm 45% white, I should give you a discount to make up for the reparations. You know what I mean? That's what I
Yeah, I can send you some details. Yep.
Yeah. So where can people find you?
Instagram is the first place and the place I'm on the most. So Instagram, Twitter, wherever, any social media really, Different Voice X. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Different Voice X is who I am.
Fantastic. Yeah, and you're really getting a good little following going on. I saw you on I think it was Prager, right?
Prager?
Or no. Might not have been Prager. Who you were on some big UK something or other.
Oh, Turning Point. Yeah.
There we go.
I contribute for them casually. So yeah, any platform really, just to get my voice out. Any platform that's really fighting against the narrative, that's where I want to be, really. So yeah, I'm speaking to a lot more people. I'm working on a few things as well. This year. So yeah, exciting stuff.
What kind of things? Do you want to tease it here? What kind of things?
Do they do that in New York?
No, maybe. Okay. I think that's a sign for cocaine. I'm not sure what that is.
I thought so.
Right.
Well, actually in England as well, but in England it means it's a secret. For us for the posh British folk, I won't tell you.
Right, and posh people never look for cocaine by doing that.
Well,
right. That might be it.
Follow the money.
Girl. So I'm guessing BuzzFeed has not reached out to you, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah, they don't. BuzzFeed. Oh, maybe they don't have that over there. Vox.
Oh, I know BuzzFeed. I know Vox. Yeah. Reached out to me for commentary and
yeah, I mean they believe in lifting Black voices. They believe in elevating Black voices.
Yeah, but we know sometimes which kind of Black voices. I mean, I've read some articles by Vox. So some of these platforms, it's not really about elevating Black voices, is it? It's about elevating Black voices that fit whatever they want to promote and whatever their narrative is.
Right. And I've seen a lot of people of color comment and share and like all your stuff, and you've got a nice little growing fan base and follower base, and they don't seem like they're self-hating. You don't seem like you're self-hating. You don't seem like you're uninformed. You're actually quite informed. A lot of those people are like, there seems to be a growing. Remember back, I think you when you were first on my show a couple of months ago, there was more of a feeling like, or you talked about a feeling of being kind of out in the wilderness on your own, kind of spearheading, being the different voice. Do you feel more support from the Black community now?
It's so weird, because yes, the simple answer is yes. Like, I've connected with so many different kinds of people, and it's like I didn't expect it because but in saying that, I've not yet connected with so many British Black people or British minorities. So when I first started my page, it was all American, literally just American, and maybe my family from here, but it was just American, let's say white people. Then now it's like American, black and white, and some British white. So I don't know where the British black people are really. Where are you? Where are you?
Aren't there only
Connect.
like, I always make a joke like, aren't there only like five?
Yeah, just me.
Right, just you by
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and did the black people arrive in England because of slavery as well?
Um, yes, yes, I believe so. So they went to America first or to Britain first? I always get mixed up.
I'm
But
not
yeah,
sure.
yeah, neither am I to
Right.
comment on that really.
Right.
But yeah.
I do know that There's this crash course, which is this YouTube kind of history series, and they do a pretty good job. And they one of the interesting facts was that America was responsible for only receiving 5% of the Atlantic slave trade. Now, obviously, that's not absolving America of what we did, and not we, just America, people, fucking
Mm-hmm.
150 years ago, but. They were only responsible for 5%. Brazil loved them some slavery. You know what I mean?
But no
And
one talks much about that.
no, and loved them some slavery, I think, for another 20 years after we abolished it in America.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And no one talks about the slave trade, the Muslim slave trade still going on,
Mm-hmm.
and in Africa as well.
Exactly.
Have you, since in your travels of learning all this stuff and getting really into this stuff, have you started to go down rabbit holes that kind of scare you in that realm?
Not that scare me. So I've always had, let's say, not really theories, but I've always had, let's say, more questions or, sort of being curious about this, the slave trade and things like that, and just about things that you've said. So why only some bits of that are over highlighted and some bits are just not talked about? So if you really dig deep, you will see that there are a lot of African people, let's say from, the African countries that the slaves were sent from and were taken from. And I'm very careful with my words. So I said where they were sent from, because many people always like to use these words where they were stolen from. And these instances happened, but the main thing and the first thing is that they were sent. And one place I was reading about, I was born in Nigeria, as you know, as many people know, and the city or town, either way, that I was born in, one of the main ports of where the slaves were, literally one of the main ports of where the slaves were sent from, they would receive, let's say, weapons because they wanted to defeat their neighboring village, right? And when they saw how powerful those weapons were, that weaponry was from, Britain, America, that's what incited them to sell or sell more of their own people. And we all know this. It started off with their the prisoners of war. So people that they didn't see as, how can I say, worthy enough for, able to stay within, criminals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who were not able to stay within their own society. So they were happy or willing to sell them off, to give them away. Now, why isn't that explored? Why isn't that talked about? Why is that completely put under the rug? Because that makes a big difference. It doesn't make a difference to, like you say, absolve the Americas and Britain, sorry, for their, and I can say their barbaric involvement in this, they took a situation and they exploited it. That's the truth. But where was the source? How did it originate? That is the big and most important question for me anyway.
Right. Um, Now, what is the main thing that people say when you start talking about Africa's involvement and accountability? Again, we're not putting it on a scale here and saying, well, but what about you guys? But we are saying there everybody can be culpable in this. What is the main argument that leftists mostly push back on you when it comes to when you bring up Africa's involvement in it?
Well, the first one is, well, you can't compare, which is normal, and with all due respect, it's a boring argument. But the one I find quite interesting, and I always laugh without fail, even though I hear it a lot, I still laugh, is when they compare and they say, well, especially when we bring up, well, it still goes on in Africa. I had a house girl, we call it house girl. I grew up in Nigeria, and they call them house girls or house boys. They don't call them slaves now. But I'm talking 21st century, there still exists house girls and house boys, and they are basically slaves. They are just basically slaves. Now, of course, it's a bit, I'm sure it's different. I've not lived there for a while. But when I was growing up, we treated them like slaves, not brutally, but sometimes inhumanely.
Right.
And what people need to understand is the way Africa is sometimes, they may not think that they're treating someone inhumanely, but they are. You wouldn't get away with that kind of behavior, let's say in the Western world, treating people with disrespect. Sometimes there's mental abuse, emotional abuse. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes they get beat.
Is it similar to the class system?
Yeah, basically, yes.
Okay, so a house boy or a house girl wouldn't necessarily talk back or share their opinion on something, or they kind of stuff. Are they paid at all, or is it more indentured type of?
Let me try and remember. When we didn't pay them, but it depends. It does depend. So I think the ones that we had, I think we sponsored their university, for example, after a while. Or some people, they just needed to get out of the village, or it literally depends. I can't 100% say they're paid or not. I think it depends on the master,
Right.
the case by case basis. But what I was trying to say is when they compare, the olden days, the olden times, and say, well, African slavery was, chattel slavery or something. And, the British one was this kind. And the thing is, slavery. What I find a lot about my culture, well, not my culture, but let's say Black people sometimes, is when something doesn't fit their argument, then that's when they make that exception. Well, it's not really racism because it's from Black people. Well, it's not really slavery because it's Black people. So when they literally do the same thing, it becomes, well, it's not really that because we don't have power, we are this, we are that. And it doesn't make sense to me. If we want equality, right, it has to be the same for us too. So that's usually the kind of feedback or backlash I get, that comparison. Well, African people, it was innocent, shall I say.
Right. Who annoys you more? Because in following your account, I have a feeling that the Blacks annoy you more than the whites on the left side. Because for me, the whites annoy me more. Maybe that's because of my 45% whiteness. I don't know what it is. Yeah. But I don't like, as far as in America, I don't know how it is in England all the way. Although I did have Katie Hopkins, and she said it's very similar in lots of ways.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's a badass. Now, in America, the whites annoy me more because there is a condescending added to these Black people being victim. There's an othering, there's a dehumanizing. Of course, there's a dehumanizing Black to white as well. We're all dehumanizing each other constantly. But what annoys me is with the white liberals is that there's also you poor Black person, you don't know any better. Poor woman, you don't know. Poor gay, poor trans. There's this, it's the same version of, the more vulgar side of the Downton Abbey class, you know what I mean? The upstairs people, but now it's just adding some victimhood. It's the same, we're better than you. It's the same condescension, you know what I mean? So who annoys you more, the Blacks or the whites?
everyone, the whole world.
Right? Right.
Um, the thing is, I don't get as much backlash now from white people. So I guess yeah, it is. I think it's more people. It's not really a black or white thing for me. It's people. What annoys me the most is people that tell me I don't have a right to speak because, let's say, I didn't go through, or they think I didn't go through what I should have gone through to qualify me to speak. So that's what gets me, whether it's from a white person or a black person. Because me personally, I know people say, well, personal experience doesn't validate or invalidate, an argument. But I respect people's personal experiences. I may not agree with you, but I cannot, unless you are completely lying, I cannot go against what you have seen with your two eyes and what you have lived. I can talk about your interpretation of it. That's fine, but I don't feel anyone has a right to talk about what I went through, what I saw, and I don't want to do the same to others. So when white or black people say, "Well, you're just saying the things you're saying because you've never been through racism," well, how the heck do you know? How how do you know? Because you see me speaking, let's say, confidently, or you see me not dwelling in the racism I went through, but it didn't, or no, not it didn't stop me. I didn't allow it to stop or hinder me. Why are you penalizing me for that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So
Yeah.
it's when people are bent on making me believe something about what I went through. Even though, let's say I have believed it, maybe I was a victim, someone asked me this, have you always been a victim? And have you always had a victim mentality? And I always say, no, I've always had, this strong-minded mentality. But the truth is, I have been there. Maybe I just try to forget. I don't want to admit it anymore. But I have been there, and it took me a lot of time and mental energy and decisions and attitudes to come out of that. It's not easy. So when people are trying to invalidate that, you know, and then furthermore say that actually I've not come out of that and I'm just deceiving myself, it just does something in me. I'm not a peaceful person as such. I can be quite bitey, but it brings something out in me that I just, yeah.
Right. Like what's the Nigerian English girl version of like taking your earrings out, getting ready to slap a motherfucker? You know what I mean?
Oh, well,
do you threaten to splash tea in someone's face? I don't know.
Oh, my dear. The thing with Nigeria is it's the home of witchcraft. So sometimes
oh no!
It's just a look. You just need your full name.
Oh God!
Is it Peter?
You better bless me. I'm gonna pour my computer into holy water right now. God damn it. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, certain cultures have much more of what's that old saying Colin Quinn talked about in his book? He said, no, I can't remember what it is. Armenians won't wait, or Iranians will wait like 70 years for revenge, but Armenians won't wait 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like they want, exactly. You know what I mean? There are certain ones that react different ways.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But,
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's been a year now, almost a year, since I started Different Voice. And I spoke to someone who I admire privately, I think last week. And, they were like, oh, it's so amazing the work you're doing. And for the first time, I actually realized, oh, it is kind of a work, isn't it? It's not just me chatting rubbish and ranting. The things that we do, what you do as well, it can take its toll. Does it take its toll on you sometimes?
Yes. It especially takes its toll in a couple of ways. Number one, my big fight is I just want to be able to talk. I want to be able to talk. When my followers or fans or people online, when they see my stuff and they don't like it, fine, I understand. But when they're not allowed to see my stuff because the algorithm says evil conservative or not non-liberal guy, we're not going to show your stuff to the people who have voluntarily elected to follow me. That's what bothers me. So that's what makes it harder. Another thing that makes it harder is extremely time consuming, not only to set things up and have interviews, and it's a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but it's a lot of effort to edit and promote and make clips and try to share it different ways and get different interesting people. And it's a lot of work, you know what I mean? And not only is it annoying when it's underappreciated, okay, yeah, I would still be doing it anyway. But it also is really abhorrently annoying when the white liberals in charge of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram decide who gets to see it because they know what's best for my followers and fans. My adults have decided to elect to follow me, and these people think they know better. Yeah. What is the annoying? What is the work part for you? Because you don't have a show yet, although we're.
I just rather now just continue to connect with people. I prefer doing that and writing. I really want to write more because I think I articulate myself better, or my raw thoughts come out more written, but I know people, too busy to read, right? They'd rather watch or listen to something. But nothing is really annoying at the moment. It's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun. But obviously, I think the reason I'm able to do what I'm doing in a way is because the world, in my opinion, is so messed up. Right? The reason I'm able to comment and the reason I'm able to make content is because of how problematic or how bad things are getting. So that's the catch-22 of it. Do you know the expression catch-22?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I need to always double check.
Do you feel like if things got better, you would potentially stop doing what you're doing?
I would do it in a different way. I would probably do it in a more, even though I think, or I hope what I'm doing motivates or inspires someone, but it is more on the cussing side. I cuss a lot, like when I say cuss, I mean, I'm always not cusses in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The language barrier.
I was like, you're on the right show, but I've been trying to clean it up. All right, continue.
Cuss, like I'm always, how do you say cuss? And like, I'm always ranting about something.
Okay. Right.
So, yeah. So I completely lost my train of thought. Oh, would I still be doing what? Yeah. So I wouldn't be like, let's say, I don't believe I'm putting people down, but people feel that way when I speak, even though I'm quite diplomatic, or I try to be as diplomatic as I can, because I don't hate BLM. I don't hate, let's say, the left. I don't even consider myself on the right, or I don't want to be seen as, I'm on the right. And that's not because I think the right is anything politically. If I would vote, it would be more on the ideologies on conservatism, because I'm traditionally, I'm socially conservative, but I'm losing faith, or I have lost faith and interest really in politics. I know America's different, but Britain anyway, we don't, this left and right thing is not as, let's say, in your blood and in your bones as I've seen that it is in America. But yeah, I don't think I put people down. I hope somehow it helps, even though it hurts. But that's how I came out of a victimhood mentality. It was a slap in the face, either by life or, oops, my headphones. I have problems with these headphones. Yeah, so yeah, it's slap in the face, either by life or by someone. But sometimes for you to, refocus and find your strength, you have to go through stuff. and that's what I'm trying to do for people. They have to snap out of it and get out of their own heads for a while and see that what they've been drowning themselves in, and these thoughts that they've been drowning themselves in, it's not that it's not false, but there's other things. I'm sorry, there's other ways to think. There are other perspectives. There's 7 billion pathways. People live in their own pathways. Stop being stuck in what you think and what you've set your mind that is your reality and it's your truth, and it cannot be changed unless Big Daddy White Man changes it for you, for example.
Right. Right. It's that old, you ever heard of the comedian Bill Hicks?
No.
Okay, so Bill Hicks, although he did have a flash for a little while in England as well, he's an American comic. He died in '93, but one of the things that he talked about was that our next evolution as humans is not another opposable thumb. Our next evolution is supposed to be thought. Our next evolution is we need to be out in outer space, and yet we're fettering away on Dr. Seuss. We're fettering away on all this small God bullshit. This we have bigger fish to fry, and I agree on that level. It seems like, I'll bring it into this way. The bigger fish to fry is both the big game, the long game, as well as the small minutia. Meaning, when I'm worried about, and this is even from my own personal experience. Look at who they're canceling now. Oh, look at this. Oh, who voted for this? Oh, they're dehumanized. Blah blah blah. Okay, how's my sink? Are there dishes piling up in my sink? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Is my floor dirty? How's my relationship with my father? How's my relationship with the girls? How's this? How's that? Am I meditating? Am I taking care of myself? That's the bigger fish to fry. It's the small shit. And if we're all being responsible for ourselves and doing self-care, sorry to get hippie with it, but if we're all making sure that our cul-de-sac is taken care of and clean, then the world will be fucking clean. But the more we say, oh no, this, the more we're pointing outwards, we're not taking care of ourselves. You know what I mean?
Spot on. I say that all the time, especially when people, I was talking about being socially conservative. That's my core. I don't believe in saving the group. And I know that sounds selfish and bad, but it's not. I believe in working and focusing on the individual, because then you do less the work. Healthy people can help people, but what's happening now, like you've said, people are not healthy, people are messy, people are dirty, and I'm not talking about the physical. Their minds, their hearts are messed up. Unfortunately, more children are growing up in messed up situations, and they're growing up in hurt. And then these people are the ones that you're not trying to save, you're trying to move them or motion them to save others or rally them and things like that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. All this, that's why I hate groupthink. I hate collectivism. It doesn't mean there's a difference. We collaborate. We are collaborating. We talk. We reason. But no one's reasoning anymore. We just, what's going on? Emotions are flying and nothing's being done. Like you said.
Right.
Yeah.
And part of that is we're not listening to each other. It's really hard for me. I think just because we're all humans and this is a human experience, but especially, whatever, especially these days, maybe it's hard to be in the present moment. Being present with no Facebook, no Netflix, no nothing. Just sit. Don't even put on jazz, Pete, to like try to relax. Just sit. Yeah. It's terrifying. You know what I mean? Like, I have mortality, and I start thinking about I should have texted that thing, or what am I going to text next? And it's hard to stay in the present moment. But when we're in the present moment, we can. That's the only thing that exists. This right now is the only thing that exists. You know what I mean? Especially because you and I are more important than everybody. No, I'm just kidding.
When did you get philosophical, Peter? What's going on?
How dare you? I've been philosophical forever.
This is not the one I know.
Just because I talk about filthy sexual things doesn't mean that I don't meditate. You can meditate while I'm ever. You know what?
Meditate on that.
Right, I can meditate. Absolutely, absolutely. I actually had one time an old mentor, because I was having some issues with some like weirdness with this relationship or with sex or whatever, and they said, why don't you invite God into the room, set up a chair in the corner, And, you know, when you're having sex with this girl, God's now involved. It's a weird idea. It's a weird concept, but not involved like sexually, but like it helped me realize like, I don't need to feel ashamed or I don't need to feel insecure in the moment with this person. You know what I mean? Like it's okay. God knows he didn't make a mistake making me a pervert. You know what I mean? Like in a good way. He didn't make a mistake giving me these desires or her these desires. It's all right. Let's, you know, breathe and let this happen. So I think you could do both things. But okay, so we talked about that. I also wanted to talk about too, do you see it from a cultural standpoint? There does seem to be a cleansing going on in a lot of different ways. And obviously we're all talking about cancel culture these days. But what do you think is the end game for the cleansers? What do you think is the end game? Do you think they really believe, maybe there's two different tiers to it. There's the people up top, the conspiracy theorists would say their goal is to just make us all drones or whatever, population code, whatever the hell. But the people on the bottom, the people, the boots on the ground, literally the Marxists on the ground, what do you think their end game is? Because I kind of fashion it in my head that maybe they think one day there won't be any money, there won't be any issue, you know, we'll all be one race and we'll all just sit in a field somewhere and sing songs about peace. What do you think their end game is?
I don't know, but what I do know for sure is that we're moving very quickly to, I like Jordan Peterson. I love him, like I'm sure many people do, but he said something along the lines of, it's going to come a time where anything will be anything. So what's happening now is that they're trying to create such a confusion, and they're creating that confusion in the name of trying to create clarity and progressiveness. So what am I trying to say? So canceling, let's say, Dr. Seuss, canceling Mr. Potato Head, they're trying to say that they're doing it to progress. It's better, more inclusive. But actually what it's doing is it's causing a lot of confusion indirectly, because people are going to start thinking, well, is this wrong? Or what's the issue here? Or that's the environment we're creating, especially with this whole everything is racist. Oh, I said hello in this way. Is that racist? Oh, there was a news story about this and I did the same thing. Am I racist? So there's a lot of confusion and people don't know what to think. So literally anything one day will be anything. Someone will come on TV and say, we're canceling, we're canceling school. We're canceling, like you said, money, which I don't think that's anything far-fetched. We are moving to a, moneyless, cashless society,
Right.
But that's another topic for another day. So I don't know what the end goal is, but all I see in the end game is confusion and chaos and mess. That's all I see.
Right. And I also see two things towards that. I also feel most people are actually quite reasonable, which is why let's be real about this. Mr. Potato Head, whoever made that decision, the company, did not do it. And leftists, you have to listen to the voice I'm saying. Listen to at least understand and agree with what I'm saying. They did not do it because they are benevolent. No company puts idea above making fucking money. No company does. They did it for the attention. No one's been talking about Mr. Potato Head since Toy Story, okay?
That's true.
They did it for a reason. For whether you want to say it's because making believe they're into the idea means more people will buy it, whether you say it's the people who are mad at cancel culture will start sharing and the name Mr. Potato Head will get out there more. Whatever the reason is, companies do not make a decision based on putting ideas above making dollars. That's just not what happens. That's number one. And number two, I also feel most people are pretty reasonable. And now there is a business in the business now for news stories, and it has been for a while, but especially for the last couple of weeks, is like, look at who else they're canceling. Look at it. If we keep saying these stories, who's benefiting from it? But besides who's canceling Dr. Susan, who's canceling Mr. Petit, whatever, who's benefiting from it? CNN, Fox, Facebook, BuzzFeed, Vox, all of these companies are like, here's this thing that's going to make you mad. Would you please click on it? Give us money, please. If you stay on our site long enough, we'll charge advertisers longer. Who's benefiting from it?
Yeah, exactly. You're right. You're completely right. It's maybe it's even going to be a new way that people get out there. What I'm trying to say is what you said was spot on. There's so many people I've never heard of until they were cancelled. Like that guy, the country singer who got cancelled for saying the N-word. I don't know if he's famous for you guys. I'm sorry. I don't mean to,
I've never
heard of him.
No.
I never heard of him. And all of a sudden I heard of him and I even clicked one of his songs, I'm not saying he's involved, but, people, if people really think, even like Goya Foods, I heard of them, but I didn't really care much of these people or these things in a way. And now it's like, it's free advertising. So I don't know. Do you think there's something at play there? Do you think the people who are getting cancelled are actually the ones saying, hey, I'm not getting any publicity, cancel? I don't know.
Sometimes there's a guy, and I'm gonna say some shit that people are gonna be a little mad about who follow me maybe. Remember about a month ago, Tom MacDonald made that song Fake Woke?
Yes.
Okay. He made the song Fake Woke, and people were clicking on it a lot and watching it on YouTube and blah, blah, blah. Then, strangely, it disappeared from iTunes. And for about a 48 hour period, 24 hours really, and I saw it on Unsafe Space, I saw it all over the place. People were like, Fake Woke gets taken down from iTunes. And so everybody was sharing it. Everybody was like, oh my God, Fake Woke, the song got taken down from iTunes, blah, blah, blah. And they're putting it everywhere. See this thing that happened? See, cancel culture is going crazy. And it even made, I didn't share it, but it even, while I thought like, oh my God, like, because I make music and some of it, not really, a lot of it is political, but I'm like, okay, now that is my music going to be in trouble of getting taken down from iTunes? So I started to get worried. And I dug a little bit. And I noticed that Tom MacDonald, who was on Twitter the whole 24 hours, didn't mention it once. Didn't mention it once. Now, I saw he didn't mention it once. It came from other people who were mad about cancel culture, sharing it with other people who were mad about cancel culture and running around. Then I dug a little deeper, and not that far. If you look at Tom MacDonald's iTunes and his Spotify, every single song is about how anti-woke he is. Every single song is about some political thing that makes people mad. Every single song. I hate any artist. Sorry, Tom, you're not that good. I hate any artist who has one emotional note. Rage Against the Machine, one emotional note. They don't have any other emotions besides here's a breakup song or here's this thing or here's that. I hate anybody. Tom MacDonald only has one emotional note. Look at how anti-woke I am. He's trying to get attention. So when at the end of that 24 hours, he said, oh, it was a glitch. He didn't even say it. All he said was, oh, the song Fake Woke is back up on iTunes. He didn't explain it at all. Oh, so for 24 hours, that smells a little bit. That smells a little bit like, okay, I'm going to take this down, or I'm going to have a glitch in my system, and then people are going to share that it got taken down, and then I'm not going to say anything, and I'm just going to quietly put it back up. That smells fishy, and that's so I do believe, to answer your question the long way. Sorry,
that it can happen.
That I do believe people are taking advantage of it.
Well, it's what's bringing limelight. So, I mean, I don't know about his case. I don't really know much about him, to be honest, or his music. So I can't comment. But I think people are finding that there's a gap in it, and there's money in it, and there's fame in it, in cancel culture, and in being a victim. These are the two sure ways for you to have revenue somehow in 2021, unfortunately. This is how far civilization has come, that for you to get for you to get noticed, you need to be cancelled. For you to have power, you need to be recognized and be, highlighted as a victim somehow. But this is our world. This is our
Right.
world. Mm-hmm.
Right. And the more the little Twitter trolls,
Mm-hmm.
if they just, and I've said this on my show many times, but if they just took care of themselves more,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't spend so much time on Twitter. They wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
try to cancel things. There's only like 5 of them too, by the way. We make all these huge stories. Do you think the majority of, perfect example was the Goya thing, when the 5 or 6 Latinx, people on Twitter were like, cancel Goya. Their revenue went up. It fucking doubled almost. Like people, number one, you're never going to cancel Goya. Too many Puerto Ricans. Okay, too many people. We just love it too much. Sorry.
Yeah.
The other thing is I think the majority of people are actually quite reasonable in that way. Right. So,
Yeah.
so I feel like us harping on it is not helping us. And if those 5 or 6 people who like to be professional whiners, if they just took care of themselves better, it would get a lot. But also, I think it's kind of natural and normal for 17-year-olds to 22-year-olds to be not great at taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
That's what I was. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't meditate. Like, I had kind of a spiritual life, but I was so obsessed, rightfully so. I wanted to get laid and keep a job. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I was. I didn't have time to know what was, to take care of myself and be centered and be present. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll start wrapping up in a few minutes. But I wanted to ask you, besides, I think we talked about it maybe a little bit, but I'd like to hear kind of what's your experience like going forward? Like what things, I know, maybe you don't want to talk about it in some ways, but
Quick learner.
Yeah, I know, I'm amazing. What kind of things, like, what has there been any toll on you as far as the work goes? Has it been difficult to?
No, not really. Maybe because I'm connecting more with people. So having that balance in a sense of, because I need to also make sure that I'm okay, if that makes sense. I can't be. I am grateful because many people are sharing their stories with me. Some of them are quite like, wow, okay. Obviously, more people care about what I think, which is amazing. But, I'm getting quite a few, what do you think of this? This happened. What do you think? So it's funny because I was saying that the other day, and it's like, I have to be careful to make sure that I don't have my own biases when I'm also talking to people. And if you notice my page now, it's a bit less, because in the beginning I literally thought I was just going to be ran into a few people. So I hate BLM. I hate, I still hate them, but it's less that, it's less emotional and it's more practical, because what I've seen, and a few of my friends as well, not really friends, but I guess when you connect with people, you become friends. I feel like it's a bit more darker and it's a bit personal, their content. And it's like, I hate the left, I hate BLM, and I hate Black people, really. And that's not what I want for myself. I don't want it to be seen like I hate the left, or because then it becomes personal. And when something is personal, I don't see how you can have much change. This is what I say to many Black people, you think that white people hate you, or you think, it's a personal thing. These things aren't personal. Sorry, when I explain about slavery, and many Black people believe that white people went to Africa because they hate Black people and they wanted to enslave them. And it's not personal. It was not personal. They found a system or structure, or an activity that was already happening, and they took advantage of it. It's not personal. We are human beings. Like you were talking about a time when you went through, I think perversion or something, he said, right?
Me? Wait, when did I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but
It's written all over your face.
right?
No.
Humans. Is that what you said? My humanity? Okay.
No, yeah, but I wrote about this, I think, or I've not put it out yet. We are evil. Human beings are evil. We are. Or we have evil, or we are capable of evil. I don't care who you are. You know, it doesn't matter who you are. Some have it to high degrees, and that's why they massacre millions, or that's why they can murder. That's why they can cheat without blinking. That's why they can do those things. Let's say the average person doesn't. And that's why we don't go around slapping or punching everyone. We can hold our temper. We can control it. So when people think that evil was done because it's personal to them, they're very stupid. I'm sorry. And they're very shallow, because it's nothing to do with you. It's that person's evil that unfortunately crossed paths with you. And it's horrible. And that's why, a lot of victims of sexual abuse, it's very difficult for them as well, because unfortunately, and they don't like to hear this. Do you know how weird it is? They don't like to hear that it wasn't personal. That's how twisted some of these things are, because the abuse, the pain becomes part of them. So when you're telling them it wasn't personal to them, you're attacking who they are or who they've made themselves to be. I know I'm talking a lot, but it's a deep thing. Victimhood, everything that's going on, it's a lot deeper. So I think the question you asked is if it takes its toll. No, it doesn't, because I've been there, and what drives me is I want someone to feel as free as I feel.
Right.
That is priceless for me, because I haven't always felt free to speak,
Right.
I've been free mentally for a long time, but in terms of being sure of my opinions and sure to speak, I've not always had that. And now I do, and it's the best thing in the world. And I need someone to have and feel what I feel.
Right.
I'm not talking about people who genuinely think they're victims or oppressed. That's different. I'm talking about people who don't believe the narrative but are stifled or feel stifled. It's them I want to,
free.
just, yeah.
Yeah. And that's a noble cause, but as long as we, because I feel the same way, but as long as we take care of ourselves, because I have seen people spin out, I have seen people lose themselves in it and get really dark and personal. I have seen people who get obsessed with one topic and then just become all myopic on that one. I don't want any part of that. Just like you said, I mean, part of the reason why I called the show Conservatish is because I don't want to be the conservative musician. Fuck you.
I love
like,
it.
How like,
I love it.
I don't want to be pigeonholed ever. You know what I mean? To that point that you were talking about, I would love to expand on that a little bit, on that idea of abuse victims not believing that it's personal. That's an important point. It's a deep point, but it's also, I will take it a step further as well and say most abusers have been victims of abuse. Most. Now, when it comes to, there was a wonderful South Park episode where they were talking about Michael Jackson. And we don't need to get if they're Michael Jackson fans or whatever the hell, but but they were saying he was doing a bunch of crazy stuff in the episode, and a bunch of people in town kept saying, oh, he had a bad childhood, right? Now, whether or not someone had a bad childhood, whether you want to take Michael Jackson or another example, that doesn't excuse behavior. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Just because someone was an abuser or was abused as a child doesn't mean it's okay for them to abuse people, right? Someone has to break the chain at some point. That has to go towards, again, personal responsibility. But to say anybody who's a victim of abuse is white as snow, and anybody who's abused people is black as night, or whatever you want to call it, it's again myopic. It's not. We need to humanize even the people who are abusers. Is what I'm saying. Because even like you said, that the evil is sometimes higher in some people versus others. Yes, that is absolutely true. But those people were often loved by their family. I mean, Hitler was loved by his family. You know, he was a good painter. He was a vegetarian. You know what I mean? Like, people are complicated. People are complicated, and often people who do something really horrible on one end, on the other end will do something, later on that day will do something wonderful, or take care of their cat, or be loved by a spouse, or you know what I mean. Just when we put these people on a pedestal of horribleness or a pedestal of hero, it dehumanizes them, and it absolves ourselves of having to look inward at our own evil,
exactly,
and our own value.
Exactly. And like you said, being a victim of something doesn't excuse you. Let's link it back to what we said about slavery. Let's say them finding an opportunity doesn't excuse them, or, well, they were doing it already. It doesn't excuse them. So I'm a big Avengers fan, Marvel. I am. And
You young kids.
It's my only guilty pleasure. But there's one line that was said by one of the actors there. So he was basically brainwashed by, I don't know, some secret service or whatever. And he did some horrific things. He murdered people and things like that. And his best friend said to him, look, that wasn't you. You didn't know what you were doing. And then he said, yeah, that's true, but I still did them. And that was so powerful. It's so simple, but it's so powerful. And it comes with that self-responsibility, Yes, this happened to me, that happened to me, but, I still did them. It was still from my hands, my actions. But then on the other hand, people who have been victims of some kind of oppression, abuse, anything in that category, they can't, let's say, forget, or they shouldn't necessarily forget, but they cannot remember or keep hold of that pain. That's the unfair part. It's unfair because you're taking the evil of that person and you're living it, you're making it your reality again, and you're suffering twice. That's why I have this kind of mentality of, look, I'm not saying you should, I always say forgive, that's just who I am. I've forgiven many, many a thing. So I'm always on the side of forgive because it frees you, it liberates you. But if you can't do that, don't hold and don't live in the pain. And that's the whole thing with this Black people being oppressed because of 400 years and things like that. It's more unfair to them because these people who they're saying are the abusers are living their lives, are, getting jobs, are doing whatever, but they are still stuck in, I can't because they won't let me. But no one's letting them apart from these invisible prisons that they have set that they will live in, they will die in, they will, So, yeah, it's a lot.
And it's also myopic because how did Thomas Sowell do it? How did Larry Elder do it? How did Michael Jordan do it? The Michael Jordan documentary is a perfect example. Michael Jordan grew up poor. He didn't grow up rich. He didn't whatever, but his parents were ruthless in a good way. His parents were like, no, you're going to do this. You're going to do competition, blah, blah. And he had the drive to, Michael Jordan's father said the best thing you could do for Michael is tell him he couldn't do something. You know what I mean? And watch him, right? So how come all these other people did it? You know what I mean? How come all these other people have been, it's not that they grew up in, right? So, and then lastly, I'll just say to that point of what you're saying, responsibility. So I'm 19 years sober, right? And when it was, it's not my fault necessarily, but I'm allergic. I break out in handcuffs. There's a saying that in this spiritual group I'm a part of, like we try to make amends for what we did when we were whatever. And just because I stole things because I needed, whatever, or because I needed to scratch the itch, or because I was selfish, alcoholic, whatever, doesn't mean that I don't have to. The bottle is not going to go pay the money back.
Exactly.
I have to. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. It's powerful. You're an inspiration, aren't you?
I know, and I'm so handsome too. I don't know how I do it.
Beautiful.
It's not just how do I do it. How do I do it every day? I don't know. So yeah, Ada, this has been a great time talking to you. I really appreciate you joining me again. And I think I only cussed a couple of times. I'm pretty proud of myself.
Well done. Well done.
Much.
I didn't cuss. I'm such a good.
You didn't. I know, right?
Oh.
People need to go find you in order to pay you back. All of my fans, unless you go follow different voice acts, you're a racist.
And witchcraft will be done again.
Jesus, good Lord. To get the chicken heads away from her.
No. I'm a good holy Christian girl.
But yeah, where can people find you?
Instagram, Different Voice X. Twitter, Different Voice X. Facebook, Different Voice X.
And do you have anything coming up that you want to tease or promote, or like any dates? No, just follow me, chatting my usual stuff. I'm always on hand to take on your rants as well, people's rants. I'm always, I was built for it. So yeah, I'm here. But don't bother her too much, because I will say that last thing that you were saying, or this last thing, it does get a little weird sometimes when you are trying to be a lightning rod. Sometimes people will try to use you as lightning. You know what I mean? They'll try to come in and just be like, yeah, I hate those people too. And you're like, I didn't say that. Like,
I never said that.
I'm very
clear. I can laugh, I can joke, but don't put words in my mouth. And it's happened a few times. And I had to be like, nope, wasn't me, didn't say it. Look at my page, I will make a video, say, nope, it wasn't me. And that's the nature of this, really. People don't have their voice and they try to use yours incorrectly.
Right. Fine. But again, all of that will be fixed if we just self-care. Damn it. Anyway. Yes. Different Voice X, you're wonderful. Everybody, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this. Make sure you especially share this with your white liberal friends. And rate it and review it. And I'll go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you so much, Ada.